Working by myself today, and I just thought I'd show you a quick video on how to do a soldier course, or how I do soldier courses with pavers. So if you don't know what a soldier course is, soldier course or a sailor course is going to be your outermost course on your paver job. So for right here, you can see this walkway. It's basically already done. The soldier course is going to be this block right here that runs all the way along the edge. Sometimes you won't use them, sometimes you will, depending on the project. Most of the time pavers are going to look great with a soldier course if you're doing a bigger slab-like patio with some bigger pieces, like bluestone pieces. Don't necessarily need one. You never need one. It's always up to you as a contractor or the homeowner to decide if you want one. So, like I said, we got the walkway, which already has them cut in. We also have our patio, which has not been cut in yet. You can see here, all along the edges are just bricks laid all the way as far close to the edging as I can get. I'll show you why we do that in a bit. Tools that I'll be using here. If you're a homeowner, there's a couple things I'd highly recommend renting and not using what you have in the garage, because it's not going to work very well. But for the most part, pretty simple. Left here we got our trowel. We have our safety equipment, ears, nose, and this is for silica dust. If you're cutting any sort of concrete, you need this. Okay, silica dust is awful for your respiratory system, and it's one of the main causes of death or bodily injury on the work site. So we also have some red crayon. That's for cutting wet. Just a normal chalk or soapstone. This little tool here is called a quick draw. This is what's going to allow me to set the exact width I need from the edging over to the pavers, and that's going to help me tell me where I need to cut. And we have a 7-pound dead blow hammer. Don't need this. This is just sometimes I use for setting the pavers back in if they're sitting a bit high. And then over here we have our saws I'm going to be using. First saw is just a demo saw. That's what I'm going to be using most here, at least to cut out the border. And then we also have a table saw that I haven't set up yet. I'd highly recommend as a homeowner that you rent one of these. The demo saw is definitely going to be a little bit more dangerous, so if you're worried about that, the wet saw or the tile saw is the way to go. I prefer to use the demo saw more than the table saw, as at least me, I get better cuts and cleaner cuts doing it like that. What I recommend that you don't do is using one of those quick saws or table saws that you just run across, say a piece of 2x4 or 4x8 plywood to cut. Those are going to be basically shot after you use them. So along with that is they really don't have the power to cut through what you need to with these soldier courses. Demo saw, it's a TS 420 from Steel, and what's real nice about it is it allows you to basically cut in place. So you see this nice smooth line running all the way down there that separates the soldier course from the main course. That was all cut in place using this. Downfalls of it is when you're doing pavers like this, you really can't cut wet. What that means is you're using water and basically controlling the dust that way. Very nice to do. Unfortunately, you can't really do that when you're cutting in place. I've tried it before. It makes a mess of things. It creates this slurry, and you can clean it off the pavers, but it makes it very messy and the time you save by using the demo saw is negated by the time you spend cleaning up that slurry. So on top of that, you got the tile saw. This is what I use to cut wet. You can see over here I just have a little attachment, hooks into your hose, and then that allows you to cut wet. Cutting wet means you're using water. It'll help with the diamond blade. It'll cut it a little bit smoother. From an aesthetics standpoint, not really looking smoother, but more the saw has to do less work. And on top of that, there's no dust, which is very nice, especially if you're in a neighborhood. You know, the neighbors will appreciate that, but sometimes you just can't use that. That's why I say if you're going to rent one thing, if you're comfortable, I would say rent the demo saw. But again, it is dangerous, and you have to be very careful when you're using it. One more thing, along with the neighbors, is what you're doing today is very loud, very dusty. So it's a good idea to talk to the neighborhood, or at least the neighbors that are directly across and around the house, to tell them and just let them know that you'll be working today and that it's going to be very dusty. So the product that I'm using here is County Elements, and the main course is going to be a timeless color. It's got a good color mix up in there, kind of reminds you a little bit of bluestone. And the way I'm doing it on this project is what I started with is before I did my sand base, or my sand underneath the pavers, I installed this edging. And this edging goes all the way around the whole patio, all the way over to the freestanding walls. And then what I do with that is I lay my pavers right inside of that. I screed all inside of that. A couple different ways you can do it. You don't have to use that edging right away. When I'm doing projects that have the shape of it is it might be a little bit difficult to make after you install the pavers, or if you're kind of open to the shape of it, I like to put the edging in first, because then it's much easier to actually get the shape down compared to placing all your pavers and then cutting your shape first. Right now, I mean, I already have my shape of my patio because of the edging. So with my tool, I'll basically take it and I'll run it along here, and while it does that, it's gonna transfer that mark to the pavers all the way along it, and that'll give me a nice line to tell me about. It's called a Quick Draw by Probst, I think it's called, or Paver Patios. And what it does is it transfers that edge to the patio, so you know exactly where you need to cut out. Essentially, I have it already set, but what you do is you take whatever you're going to scribe with. Right now I have soapstone because I'm cutting dry. You put it in there, you tighten that thing down, you mark off how thick the paver is going to be, so I know that this paver is the right thickness of my soldier course. You can see I already have it. The thickness of it is already marked. I've already set it, so I won't show you how to do that. You can kind of use your imagination. But then I take it and I set it right on that edge there, and I basically take this tool and I go around the whole thing like this. Pretty hard to do it one-handed. And you can see it'll mark a perfect distance from that edge all along the patio. And then I'll come through, take my demo saw, and cut along that path. The one downfall to doing it this way is when you're doing the edging right away, you're almost guaranteed going to have some straight lines. When you're installing the edging with the stakes, you can kind of see here I got all the edging has these little stake things that you're going to knock into. You're bound to kind of straighten out every once in a while. So for instance, let's see here. Can't really find any too bad, but when it is straight like that, you can kind of see here, maybe you can see how it kind of straightens out. You're going to want to remember that, and when you're going to cut, you're going to want to make sure when you're going along that white line that you kind of compensate for that straightness, essentially making sure there's curve in the whole way and try not to have any lulls or lazy lines here. Like I said, you're going to lay your main course as far to the edging as you can so that you can actually scribe on those pavers. Sometimes, a lot of times, you're going to have pavers that won't fit in there. So using my pattern here, I know that this big one is the next one that goes in there. Although unfortunately it's not going to fit because this edge right here is going to hit the edging. So what I'll do is I'll take my demo saw. Another reason why the demo saw is just extremely handy is you can just cut off corners and make cuts very quick. Other people call it the quick cut saw, and that's kind of what it does. So I'll just cut off this corner right here, I'll set it in place, and I'll do that for all these pavers. These ones over here that were unable to fit into my edge. I got my soldier course cut. You can see I made just those quick cuts to fit those big ones in there. And I ran my quick draw, I think it's what it's called, all the way along, making a nice smooth line, one paver width from the edging. That way that soldier course will fit right in there. What's also cool about this thing, it's got a lot of different uses and use it a lot of different ways. So the way I did it is I stuck that piece right into the edging and then went along. Okay, but now I got this retaining wall, or the sitting wall, where that ain't gonna work anymore. So what I did, use this wheel, remeasure, and then now since I have this wheel, it just goes right along it the whole way. Oh, there we go, right along it the whole way. Now the only issue with that is you can see this retaining wall has a lot of texture to it, so my line is going to show that. You don't want to cut along that line. You want to make a nice smooth cut. I'm guessing most homeowners aren't going to have this little tool. So what can you do? The very first job I did, I obviously didn't have that. It's expensive for what it is. So you can kind of make your own, it's not too difficult to see what it does. Another thing you can do is if you have your paver right here, you basically stick it right along that edging. And you have to do this all the way around. And then what you can do is make a line all the way around. That's one way to do it. Or you can just take your paver, take a scribe right down here. I can't do this with one person. Take a scribe right down here and basically look from the top and scribe all the way along. Done that before too. Definitely not as easy or as clean as using this tool. One other way to do it is if you don't have your edging installed right away, what you can do is lay out your main course. So lay out your big main course, take your edging, and basically stick your edging in the shape that you want it, all the way along within the main course. And then what you're going to have to remember is that your pavers, your soldier course, is going to go past where you cut. So you got to make sure you leave room on your compacted base, and make sure you have enough room to add in those soldier courses that go the whole width. Marked off. The next step is I'm going to take this demo saw. Can't do this while filming, unfortunately, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to run it all the way along this line, and that's just going to do it about a half an inch down. And what that'll do is allow me to go back through and make a deeper cut, and then another one, a deeper cut, until I get all the way through the pavers. If you try to do them all at once, try to cut the whole paver at once, it's not going to work out very well. You're going to get a lot of movement. Along with that too, the downfall to doing it this way as opposed to marking them, bringing them over to the tile saw and cutting them, is you're going to disrupt your sand base or your sand underneath the pavers. So you just got to remember you're going to have to go through with the trowel and fix anything that you mess up. You will mess up sand. Another thing too is the pavers can move on you a little bit. So these bigger ones aren't going to move as much. These little ones like that or like that are going to move a fair share. So what I typically do is if it's moving too much, I'll create my score first. I'll take my scored line, so remember, no matter what, I go all the way along the patio with my demo saw. Score the line, and for any one paver that's moving a whole lot or that has little slivers, like for instance, this little sliver right here is best cut on that tile saw over there. It's real hard. You can do it, but it's real difficult to cut those little slivers with the demo saw. You get a lot of movement, and oftentimes they end up breaking. So I like to just score it, pull it out, and then cut the rest of mine that I can cut with the demo saw. I gotta say, cutting it this way, I've done it both ways, and this way creates the cleanest lines, in my opinion. All of your cuts are gonna line up. What happens if you score it first and bring it over to that tile saw over there and cut it? That works pretty well too. If you don't score it and you just mark it and then bring it to the tile saw, your lines aren't going to match up perfectly. Your cuts aren't going to match up perfectly. And that's because it's nearly impossible to cut on this line with that tile saw the exact same cut along the whole thing. One time you might be just a hair to the right of the line, one to the left. So this demo saw, by scoring it first and then cutting all the way through, or scoring it first and bringing your pavers to the table saw, it allows you to follow that exact line that you've already cut, and that way you're going to have a nice smooth line the whole way. Like I said, that's just one way to skin the cat. Other people do it scoring it or just marking it, bring it to the tile saw. I'm better at it doing this way, so I like doing it this way. You can see that score all the way along, about ½ inch, ¼ inch deep. Nice smooth line. That's going to be my finished cut. One thing to note, like I said, these little slivers, sometimes it's easiest if you pull them. For instance, this guy right here. That's going to be a pretty tough cut with the demo saw. So I'm going to pull that and cut it with the tile saw. But everything else, essentially just keep hitting it with the demo saw deeper and deeper. Usually takes maybe 3 or 4 times around until you cut all the way through. It is hard on your back, so take breaks and be very careful because you're using a demo saw. So, cut out my soldier course. Just like that. All the way along. You can see we left enough space for the soldier course to go in. Now the tricky thing about this is on light curves, like so, you don't have to cut anything. But once you get to these bigger curves, like that, a little bit harder, you gotta cut every other paver. It's a lot of work. Best done with 2 guys. Got a tile saw going, and I'm marking them. So after I did my demo saw cut, you can kind of see here, I had to go through and trowel out sand. That's trowel. So what I did here is, you can see, not cut, 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 cut. Every other one. You see those gaps? Once those gaps, like right there, once they start getting too big, you gotta start cutting. So the way I do it, and we already got my dad over there cutting, this is the easiest way I found. You take, cut, 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 cut. Every other cut. And you take, to do this, you take one, you set it, so you set it on top, and that'll give you the angle you need to cut, and then you chalk a line. One on top right here, chalk a line, chalk a line.
It's kind of dark in there. what you can see, we got to cut each one of these individual small ones to fit the curve. So what I do, put them up here. You can see right in here, it just barely goes past this one right here. And then that's what we're going to cut off. So you'll take a line, mark your lines all the way across, and then you can pull those 5 pavers, bring them over to the tile saw, and cut them. One thing you might notice here, so we're using a product called Brisa, freestanding wall, and with that, it has a lot of these little bumps on them. So sometimes you get a little bit close with the paver, and they have to kind of make them fit in there. A great thing to use for that, a little grinder, a little handheld grinder. So what you want to do is go get a diamond blade like this, and very quick, easy way to kind of make them fit.
We're all done. We got all of our soldiers cut, put in place. You can see everyone is cut. What you want to get away from is, let's see if I can find here. So let's just say an area like this, what you don't want to do is allow for this joint to be too big and then cut a piece like that just to fit in this area. Not good. Except what you do is you cut them, every other one.